Our next adventures are in Namibia on the southwest coast of Africa. We're flying into Windhoek, the capital of Namibia. I'd expected a desert landscape, but instead this is savanna. The original plan was to fly to Walvis Bay on the coast. The construction's closed the airport, so we need to change planes here to fly to Swakopmund. We're greeted with a big surprise. Our flight to Swakopmund is a DC-6B built in 1958. It's been lovingly restored and is now the pride of Namibia. As we board, they play vintage music to take us back to another time. It started life in Yugoslavia as the private plane of Marshall Tito. Now the interior decorations are decidedly African. And off we go to Swakopmund, enjoying the view through big square windows. The terrain gradually changes from savanna to dry mountains. Then to the sandy desert I was expecting. But then the sandy desert gives way to a rough, craggy landscape. Then we are in Swakopmund, a resort town more German than African. We are greeted by these Herero women in their Victorian dresses and traditional headdress. The Swakopmund Hotel was the train station in another time and seeks to take you back to the days of German colonial rule. The next morning we were off to explore that harsh, craggy landscape we saw from the plane. I wonder how anything can survive here. The Nara melon are a staple in the diet of people and animals here in the Namb Desert. But this is what we are looking for, a welwitschia, a very primitive plant that only grows here in the Namib Desert. They only have 2 leaves, even though they split into strap-like sections and it looks like more. They grow very slowly, and their age is hard to assess, but they appear to live for 1,000 years or more. Beetles are a pollinator of this very strange plant. We thank our driver for getting us back to the hotel okay. After lunch, we have an adventure that gets my vote for the most fun, Tommy's Living Desert. We head south of Swakopmund to sand dunes, very different from the lunar landscape north of town. As Tommy drove us through the dunes, he would periodically stop the van, jump out, and frantically dig something out of the sand. He was catching beetles, the favorite fruit of the Namb chameleon. The beauty of these dunes made for great photographs. But Tommy wanted to show us that even though the dunes looked barren, they were full of life. He jumped out of the van and returns with a shovel-snouted lizard. When threatened, they use their shovel snout and their legs to quickly bury themselves in the sand. Tommy introduces us to a new fashion statement, live lizard earrings. Tommy was a little more careful with this find, a desert adder, very poisonous. The desert adder is also known as the sidewinder because of the way he moves through the sand. Tommy finds lots of chameleons for us. These Namb chameleons are only found here in the Namib Desert. Sherry's not quite sure what this fellow is going to do. They have adapted to life on the ground and lost their prehensile tail. They use their ability to change color for temperature control, almost black in the cool mornings and light gray-brown in the heat of the day. The chameleons are a favorite of the photographer. Tommy was careful with this one too, a black scorpion. That's not a desert mirage, it's a fishing boat on the Atlantic Ocean. We meet some other members of our group that went quad biking in the dunes. And for the grand finale, Tommy takes us for a van slide down a 45-degree slip face. As the sun goes down, we head into the desert north of Swakopmund for that African tradition, the sundowner. We compare the day's adventures with Judy and Mike. We finish our champagne as the sun slips below the horizon and the clouds turn to gold. Dinner is in the desert tonight, and entertainment is supplied by a local high school marimba band and dancers. The next morning, it's time to fly back to Windhoek. There isn't enough room for everyone on the DC-6, so we volunteer for a small plane ride. We fly over an open-pit uranium mine that is a major employer in the Swakopmund area. There are 3 Cessnas carrying our group. We have the fastest one, and our pilot delights in passing the others. The passing landscape turns greener as we approach Windhoek. All our airplanes are lined up at Windhoek. Today's Cessna, the DC-6, and our 757. We add a book of photographs and some bowls to our growing collection of souvenirs.